Hello, and welcome back to Zenin Fanfics. Today we're starting an exciting new series. What if female Deku was immortal? If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe for more content. The story we're featuring is written by Random Bullshit 9 on Wattpad. You can find all the relevant links in the description, so be sure to check out the author's profile and say hello. Now, let's dive into the story. The world of 2290, a stalled future. Nearly 3 centuries have passed since the early 21st century, yet much of the world, particularly Japan, remains visually and technologically familiar to those who once walked its cities in the year 2000. Despite the passage of 290 years, human technological progress has stalled dramatically, and in some sectors, has even regressed. The sleek, high-tech future once imagined never fully arrived. Why? The age of Quirks. With the sudden and overwhelming emergence of superhuman abilities beginning in the late 21st century, society veered away from conventional scientific advancement. In a world where humans could bend steel with their bare hands, shoot fire from their lungs, or manipulate gravitational fields with thought alone, there was less need or incentive for technological innovation. Why build exosuits when someone could lift trucks naturally? Why develop advanced computing systems when certain individuals could process data faster than machines? Why pursue global energy reform when a single hero with an energy-based quirk could power an entire city block? This over-reliance on quirks birthed a technological stagnation, as humans became enamored with their own biology, believing evolution had outpaced the machine. Phones, cars, buildings, and infrastructure remain recognizable to 21st century eyes, though with minor refinements. Most scientific revolutions stopped just short of breakthrough, substituted by biological marvels and societal complacency. Thus, the world of 2290 feels familiar, almost hauntingly so. Skyscrapers tower over neon-lit cities, trains hum through aged tunnels, and the digital web still clings together through archaic frameworks. The very fabric of human civilization has become frozen in time, gilded by the illusions of power, but corroded by lack of true progress. The mystery of the quirkless. Even in 2290, when over 93% of the global population possesses a quirk of some kind, there remains a curious and controversial minority. The quirkless. Still born in rare numbers, quirkless individuals are often viewed with a mixture of pity, curiosity, and suspicion. In a society defined by genetic power, their lack of ability often relegates them to the margins, socially, politically, and even legally. What most of the world does not understand, or chooses to ignore, is the true origin of these individuals. A legacy in the BLD. Unknown to the public, quirkless individuals are often the bearers of something far older, far deeper, and far more enigmatic than any known quirk. Trace ISU DNA. The ISU, a pre-human, godlike civilization that thrived hundreds of thousands of years ago, engineered the earliest forms of mankind, seeding their own genetic material into their creations. Most modern humans possess a diluted trace of this ancient code, so faded it is nearly unreadable. But some families, some bloodlines, inherited stronger traces. And in a strange twist of evolutionary consequence, ISU DNA often suppresses the quirk factor within the human genome. This is not a flaw, it is a genetic override. Where quirks manifest as chaotic, mutation-driven abilities tied to the nervous system, ISU genes enforce a different kind of evolutionary standard, one based on biological stability, efficiency, and durability. In essence, the body refuses quirk mutation in favor of a more ancient path. Hence, those born without quirks may carry latent ISU signatures, an inheritance far rarer, and in some cases, more potent than any quirk. Superhuman traits among the quirkless. Not all quirkless individuals are created equal. While most remain biologically normal, a select few exhibit unusual traits that fall just outside the margins of what is considered medically possible. Bone structures capable of absorbing near-fatal impacts. Nervous systems with reduced fatigue response. Superhuman strength-to-weight ratios. Cellular regeneration at low but constant rates. Resistance to environmental extremes, cold, heat, pressure, These individuals are often dismissed as anomalies, gifted, if unfortunate. But beneath their biology lies a more profound truth. Their ancestors may have once stood face-to-face with gods. In isolated cases, some of these individuals have been able to awaken dormant ISU pathways, not through quirk activation, but through exposure to ancient relics, memory frequencies, or intense emotional trauma. These awakenings are extremely rare and often misunderstood as latent quirks by medical professionals. But they are not quirks. They are echoes, genetic shadows from the first civilization. Why the truth is hidden. The existence of ancient DNA, of ISU relics, and the true origins of quirks have long been suppressed by powerful organizations throughout history. Both the Assassin Brotherhood and the Templar Order, two secret factions whose wars shaped much of human development, worked in parallel to conceal these truths for their own purposes. Even in 2290, these shadows linger. Governments, corporations, and even some hero agencies rely on the narrative that quirks are the next step in human evolution, a clean, linear story that validates their authority and societal control. The alternative, that quirks are mutations branching from lost pre-human technology, and that some quirkless are actually closer to the ancient truth, is too dangerous a narrative. Thus, those few quirkless who rise above their genetic limitations are often silenced, erased, or absorbed into institutions that hide them from the world. But they exist, and some of them are beginning to ask questions. In summary, the world of Legacy of the Tainted Jewel is a place where time has stalled and illusions of progress mask an ancient, hidden truth. Quirks may dominate society, but beneath the surface lies a buried history, written not by heroes, but by gods who fell before humanity ever rose. Some still carry their BLD, and one, in particular, remembers it all. Name, Kegure no Hoju, the Tainted Jewel. Type, Piece of Eden, symbiotic class/parasitic conversion device. Location found, entombed beneath the dormant Mount Dezetsuzan in Hokkaido, sealed in a lotus-shaped chamber carved directly into obsidian, guarded by an ancient Ainu ISU cult that once worshipped it as a living godseed. Appearance: a small, perfectly spherical orb roughly the size of a human heart, made of a semi-translucent opal-like material that constantly shifts in color, deep indigo, ghost white, and glimmering gold. It floats slightly above any surface when released and emits a faint harmonic hum that alters in pitch when life is near. Once it bonds, it implants itself directly into the bearer's chest, just beneath the sternum, like a second heart, but one that glows with alien light and pulses with thoughts not entirely human. Nature and purpose. Kegure no Hoju was one of the final experiments of the ISU Genetic Ascendancy Project, a biomechanical relic intended to elevate select human hosts into ISU hybrids over centuries, slowly rewriting their DNA while preserving their consciousness. It was abandoned as too dangerous, too independent, and, according to surviving logs, too hungry. Unlike most pieces of Eden, this one does not merely respond to a wielder. It selects one, and once chosen, binds for life. Abilities: immortality through conversion, passive. The relic makes the bearer biologically immortal, continuously repairing their cellular structure and enhancing physical performance. However, the price is mutation. Each year, the bearer becomes genetically closer to ISU, slowly altering brain structure, bone density, skin composition, and even psychic capacity. Symbiotic enhancement. The relic enhances the bearer's perception, granting minor foresight, resistance to mental control, accelerated healing, and eventually ISU tier intellect and memory encoding. In time, the user gains the ability to perceive electromagnetic memory echoes, reading the past and future woven into objects and locations. Neural communion. As the transformation continues, the relic establishes a bidirectional link with the bearer's mind. The user can access fragments of lost ISU knowledge, but also receives dreams, compulsions, and visions of the ISU who originally crafted the relic. Genetic projection field, advanced stage. After centuries of exposure, the relic allows the user to temporarily project a perfect ISU form, a radiant, golden skin being radiating power, telepathic force, and total battlefield control. However, This form is unsustainable and shortens the user's remaining humanity each time it's used. Side effects. Parasitic sentience. The relic has a mind of its own. It whispers, influences, tempts. At first subtly, then overtly. It wants the user to finish the transformation. It claims it remembers its purpose, even if the user forgets theirs. Loss of humanity. As the bearer's DNA shifts toward ISU proportions, emotional detachment, arrogance, and moral apathy begin to emerge. Friends become tools. Enemies become test subjects. Love becomes an equation. Soul splintering. Over time, the user experiences memory bleed from the original ISU architect encoded within the orb. Naharvial, a rogue transhumanist who believed that evolution through consumption was the only salvation. Irreversible binding. If removal is attempted after full fusion, roughly 10 years post-bonding, the bearer either dies instantly or collapses into a biomass of unstable genetic material, a failed god. Subject biography. Izumi Midoriya. Aliases: The Pale Weaver, The Lotus Heart, Echo of Dezetsus, and She Who Dreams of Gods. Age: 5,290 years. Biological immortality achieved in 3,204 BCE. Height: 6 feet 9 inches, 205 centimeters. Weight: 236 pounds, 107 kilograms. IQ: estimated 450. Species: Human ISU hybrid, approximate. 62% ISU genome integration. Relic bonded. Kegure no Hoju, the Tainted Jewel. Physical description. Izumi Midoriya is a tall, statuesque being whose presence often defies immediate comprehension. Though undeniably humanoid in shape and posture, her features and bearing suggest something other, something not quite mortal. Her skin has a soft, pale luminescence, as if light clings faintly to her flesh in darkened spaces. Under duress or when channeling energy, golden circuit-like tracery becomes visible just beneath the surface of her skin, trailing along her arms, throat, and chest like sacred tattoos carved in a living marble. Her eyes are her most striking feature, brilliant gold irises, ringed in shifting halos of ghost white and indigo, with no visible pupils. In moments of deep focus or psychic activity, the surrounding scara flickers with pale light, betraying her internal power. Her hair is long, straight, and raven black, often worn loose or in ceremonial braids reminiscent of ancient Ainu traditions. Fine strands within shimmer silver when struck by certain frequencies of light, an inherited trait from her ISU genome. She has an athletically lean yet powerful frame, the result of centuries of adaptive regeneration. Her musculature is optimized without bulk, dense, efficient, and sculpted by thousands of years of combat, survival, and mutation. Her bone density is enhanced beyond standard human capacity, and her posture is unnaturally upright, even in moments of rest, lending her a regal, almost alien dignity. A faint harmonic hum follows her wherever she goes, an ambient side effect of the Kegure no Hoju's constant resonance with her cellular and neural fields. The jewel itself cannot be seen directly. It is implanted beneath her sternum, nestled like a second heart. But when she channels its power, a radiant pulse glows through her chest, as if something divine stirs beneath her skin. She wears minimalist, utilitarian garments drawn from across historical eras, always black, white, and indigo. Her current style blends ancient Ainu ceremonial robes with modern ISU replicated armor weaves, flexible, invulnerable to most conventional damage, and self-repairing over time. Psychological profile. Subject name: Izumi Midoriya. Status: autonomous entity / non-aligned / monitored classification level, Black Code D8. Mental integrity: stable, non-neurotypical. Empathy index: selective, bloodline-based preference detected. Cognitive pattern: nonlinear / multi-layered / hyperdimensional reasoning. DMNE traits: calculative, observational, existential, detached. Cognitive capabilities. Izumi's mind operates on a scale incomprehensible to standard human metrics. Estimated at an IQ of 450, she is capable of simultaneous language construction, complex symbolic logic sequencing, predictive sociostructural modeling, and adaptive cross-epical analysis. She can retain and manipulate centuries of memories with perfect clarity and has trained herself to simulate scenarios involving planetary scale shifts, behavioral economics, and neurological archetypes within minutes. Her mind has evolved alongside the Tainted Jewel, giving her access to memory-encoded ISU knowledge, some of which predates Homo sapiens entirely. This includes advanced biotechnology, harmonic frequency mapping, and post-temporal theoretical frameworks. Her intelligence, while profound, is not benign. Izumi views existence through an abstract lens, one defined by cycles, entropy, and evolution. Human life is not sacred to her. It is a genetic equation, a branch of possibility she monitors and, when needed, prunes. She does not hate or love humanity in any traditional sense, but does express nuanced affection toward individuals who carry her bloodline. Emotional stability. Izumi's emotional spectrum is limited. She does not experience traditional emotional attachments to most people, ideologies, or constructs. Her longevity and psychological transformation have led to detachment, apathetic observation, and compartmentalized morality. She is capable of nurturing acts, but these are often driven by calculation, symbolic significance, or ancestral relevance, not spontaneous compassion. She is not prone to rage or sorrow. Instead, she displays a cold serenity, even in the face of devastation or betrayal. Emotions manifest slowly, if at all, and tend to be expressed through ritual, silence, or action rather than overt displays. The exception is toward her bloodline. Despite her aloof nature, she exhibits a possessive, almost guardian-like attitude toward her distant descendants, particularly those within the Midoriya, Yagi, and Shimura lines. This attachment seems instinctual, a final tether to her lost humanity. Though she rarely interacts directly, she manipulates events to protect or influence these descendants across generations. Internal conflict. Long-term exposure to the Kegare no Hoju has induced memory overlap between Izumi and Naharvie, the ISU who created the relic. Though stable, she experiences periodic identity bleed, visionary states where Nihar's consciousness briefly emerges, imposing alien logic, aggression, or philosophical depths. She manages this dissociation through extreme mental DSBLN and ritualistic meditation. However, as her transformation nears completion, the line between herself and Nihar grows increasingly fragile. She refers to these episodes as echo storms. Social function. Izumi rarely engages with society. When she does, it is through intermediaries, false identities, or projection constructs. Her voice is calm, toneless, and precise, neither warm nor cold, but alien in its emotional cadence. She speaks dozens of dead languages and often references lost civilizations in casual conversation. She has no allegiance to the Assassins, Templars, or any modern ideology. She finds their duality simplistic and counterproductive. Her loyalty is to balance and the preservation of catalytic potential, not order, not freedom. She does not view herself as a savior or tyrant, but as a contingency, a failsafe. Extension, Supplemental Intelligence Dossier, Izumi Midoriya. Classification, Omega Black, Persistent Anomaly/Non-Temporal Entity. Compiled by Templar Historical Analysis Division, Red Archive 6. Addenda and Field Notes. Assassin Archive of Eastern Asia, Black Court Codices, Vault 17F, Kyoto. Access restrictions. Level 9 clearance or above. Transnational risk asset, Tier A, warning attached. Codenames. The Pale Weaver, Japan. Lotus Heart Ghost, China. The White Death, Siberia, Russia. Lady of Echoes, Korea. Living Godsid, Ainu Origin Cult Reference. Templar Order Notes, Archive Entry, D16 Cana Redacted. Recovered from a destroyed Abstergo data vault beneath Kyoto, dated 2074 CE. Summary analysis. Subject identified as an anomalous, recurring humanoid presence across multiple civilizations throughout Pacific Eurasian history. Initial digital reconstruction links her appearance with a relic known as the Kegare no Hoju, a theorized ISU class 6 symbiotic artifact. Based on intercepted field logs and corrupted genetic simulations, we believe the relic has allowed the subject to exist in a stable, non-degrading, biologically immortal state for over 5,000 years. The subject is believed to be one of the earliest known human ISU hybrids. Though unlike other recorded hybrids, she is not the result of natural interbreeding or artificial WMB synthesis, but a parasitic vector rewrite initiated by the relic over the course of centuries. Repeated evidence shows her refusing both the creed and the cross. Neither Assassin Brotherhood nor Templar Order has ever successfully recruited, captured, or neutralized her. She is not aligned. She is not loyal. She is waiting. Reported historical sightings. 221 BCE, China, Qin Dynasty, coastal Shandong. Accounts describe a white-skinned sage with golden eyes who warned of an incoming collapse in celestial mandate. Her exact words are recorded in early alchemical scrolls banned by the Han. Coincided with the unification of China and the subsequent persecution of early Brotherhood sympathizers. 552 CE, Korea, Beach Kingdom. Whispers of a towering woman who walked unscathed through fire during a palace coup. Locals believed her to be a forest spirit. She vanished after retrieving a scroll from a forbidden vault built by Scylla agents. The scroll later surfaced in Hokkaido centuries later. 998 CE, northern Japan, Ainu territory near Zetsuzen. First mention of a lotus-hearted woman who lived among the Ainu high priests. Her skin was said to glow under moonlight. According to surviving ORL tradition, she never aged across generations and taught the priests how to listen to the mountain's dreams. 1603 CE, Edo PRD, Japan. Shogunate records reference a foreign-blooded woman accused of performing ISU-like illusions and skyscript readings before disappearing into the woods near Nikko. Assassin operatives were dispatched to monitor her. None returned. 1905 CE, Russia, Port Arthur/Vladivostok. Russian Templar factions report contact with an unnamed female during the Russo-Japanese War. She slaughtered both forces at nightfall with unknown weapons and vanished. Only one survivor lived to describe her. She walked through bullets like rain through mist. Her eyes weren't human. 1945 CE, Hiroshima aftermath. An unconfirmed eyewitness stated that a pale, glowing woman was seen walking barefoot among the irradiated ruins, touching rubble and whispering. Photographic analysis revealed a faint electromagnetic anomaly in one damaged image. Recovered film was confiscated by early Abstergo prototypes. 2122 CE, Hokkaido quarantine zone, post-Quirk rebellion. A reconnaissance drone recorded what appeared to be a humanoid entity levitating above Mount Zetsuzen during a tectonic storm. The figure was visible for precisely 74 seconds before the drone was disabled by what appeared to be gravitational waveform disruption. The footage was corrupted beyond repair. Only a single frame remained, showing a silhouette surrounded by fractal rings of light. Physical interaction reports, survivor testimonies. Subject voice, calm, without affectation. Lacks inflection. Carries an impossible weight when heard in person. Gait, fluid, quiet. Steps do not trigger sound sensors or seismic detectors. She has bypassed dozens of security systems without alert. Temperature signature, cooler than surrounding air. In direct observation, body emits an undetectable thermal resonance that subtly distorts memory in low-level observers. Biological sample attempts. All efforts to acquire BLD, hair, or tissue samples have failed. Materials either evaporate or degrade into isotopically inert carbon flakes. Assassin Brotherhood Notes, Vault 17F, Kyoto Archive. Entry excerpt by archivist Yukiko Takashiro, year 2138. She is not part of the creed, nor its enemy. I believe she has watched us since the beginning, not as an ally, but as a chronicler. We are myths in her eyes, and she is the myth behind myths. Some say she has mastered the sixth sense. Others say she is the final iteration of the eagle vision, the first sight. Every time civilization rises in these lands, she is there. Sometimes to push it forward, sometimes to let it fall. She speaks to no one unless she wants to. And when she does, something changes. Known tactics and activity patterns. Primary regions of movement. Japan, Hokkaido, Tokyo Basin, Mount Fuji Line. Coastal Korea, Busan, Jeju Island, DMZ Corridor. China, Shandong, Zhejiang coastlines, occasionally Fujian. Eastern Russia, Primorsky Krai, Kamchatka, Sakhalin. Operational footprint. Izumi does not use digital communication, vehicles, or modern weaponry. Instead, she is known to operate through reconstructed ISU satellite relay codes and optical sound-based encryption. She possesses ancient infrastructure beneath Mount Dezetsuzen, believed to be part of an old ISU data repository. Attempts to locate it have all failed. Entire Abstergo scout teams have vanished. Current purpose unknown. All analysis indicates she is now observing the Quirks singularity event, and recent seismic data suggests activity beneath Hokkaido has resumed. Templar sensors detect ISU-tier harmonic emissions near ancient fault lines. Internal consensus fears that she may be attempting to reactivate the world network or gather other pieces of Eden for an unknown purpose. Final note, Red Code Protocol initiated. She is not a threat we can stop. She is not a war we can win. She is what comes after the end. Templar Director Shoichi Watanabe. Final message, before disappearance in 2249 CE. Recommendation. Do not engage. Do not pursue. Observe from extreme distance. Any direct confrontation with Izumi Midoriya is considered existentially hazardous. She is not an asset. She is a force of history wearing skin. Circa 3300 BCE, late Jomon PRD, Hokkaido, Japan. The wind howled over the snow-choked peaks of Mount Dezetsuzen, shrieking like a banshee as it scraped across bare stone and ancient pine. It carried with it 1,000 voices, not of the living but of the past, of something older than bone, older than gods, something that had waited for far too long. And Izumi, cloaked in a mantle of pale wolf furs, heard them all. She stood near the ridgeline, her breath crystallizing in the frigid air, dark eyes turned toward the sky. The clouds had cleared some time before dawn, and now the heavens above were painted in hues of molten gold and bruised violet. Her bare feet, toughened by years of travel and exposure, were half buried in frost, yet she did not flinch. There was something calling, not from the sky above, not from the spirits of her dead kin or the whispering fire of her mother's broken shrine. Not even from the dreams that had plagued her for 3 consecutive moons. Dreams of spirals, glass hearts, and cities beneath the earth. No, this call was deeper. Below. She had left the remains of her forest-bound village weeks ago, guided only by a compulsion she did not understand. The men of the southern tribe had tried to take her, but their bones now fed the crows along the riverbanks. She did not fear them. She did not fear death. For Izumi had never belonged among mortals. Even as a child, they had whispered it. She listens to things that are not there. She speaks to fire. Her eyes do not blink when she stares at the sun. They were right. She was different, and she was alone. It took hours to descend the cliffs and reach the base of the southern slope, her hands gripping rock and slick root as her body moved with unnatural precision. Every movement was exact, as though choreographed by something ancient watching from behind her skull. By dusk, she had reached the valley basin, a place so deep and narrow that even light seemed to hesitate before entering. Snow clung to the edges like dead skin, but here, the center was warm. A soft mist rose from an unseen source, curling around her ankles and making the hairs on her arms stand stiff. The dreams had told her of a stone ring, a circle split by a crack, a fracture that bled warmth. She found it there, beneath an outcropping veiled in moss and soot-blackened lichen, a circular arrangement of obsidian monoliths, jutting from the ground like shattered ribs. Their edges were smooth, unnaturally precise. Ancient, not carved by hand, not even worn by nature. Something else had grown them, molded them into place. Izumi approached the center, her heart silent, her breath shallow. The ring pulsed faintly underfoot. A resonance. She pressed her hand against the central stone. It was warm, like sun-baked flesh, and it hummed beneath her palm. Low harmonic. Not sound, but feeling. Then, with a low groan that reverberated through the mountain itself, the earth opened. The ground beneath her split along a perfect seam, revealing a narrow staircase carved into smooth black stone, descending into impossible darkness. No torches, no markings, no scent of rot or decay. Just cold air and the promise of something waiting below. Izumi did not hesitate. She descended. The staircase seemed to stretch beyond time. She could not tell how long she walked. Minutes, hours, days. The passage had no torches, yet light filled it, pale and bluish, emanating from hair-thin seams along the walls. The stone was not stone, too smooth, too cold, too perfect. Like the inside of a shell crafted by gods. As she walked, the walls began to shift. Images formed, not carved but grown from within, etched in crystal veins and shining glyphs. Spirals, circles, geometric stars and symbols she did not understand, yet recognized. They matched her dreams. Cities that floated, eyes without pupils, a tree with veins of gold, a woman with arms of glass cradling a heart of fire. Each step deepened her silence. Each image echoed in her BLD. Finally, the corridor opened into a vast cylindrical chamber, a hollow several hundred feet high, its domed ceiling lost in a haze of softly glowing mist. There were no support columns, no signs of age or erosion. It was pristine, as though untouched by the centuries that had buried it. At the center stood a pedestal of obsidian, ringed with concentric platforms like ripples frozen mid-motion. Suspended above the pedestal was a floating disc, roughly a handspan wide, rotating in slow, deliberate pulses. Its surface shimmered with light, not reflected, but emitted, shifting through patterns Izumi could feel pressing against her skull. She stepped forward. Each platform she crossed responded to her presence, emitting gentle chimes and shifting light beneath her feet. The chamber was not reacting randomly. It knew her. When she reached the final ring, the disc's rotation ceased. For a heartbeat, all was still. Then a single beam of light shone down from the apex of a dome, striking the pedestal and illuminating a circular depression in the floor beneath. As Izumi approached, the pedestal retracted, seamlessly folding into itself, and the ground parted, revealing a spiral staircase descending further still. She paused, and for the first time in years, she felt it. Fear. Not terror. Not panic, but something primal. A sensation pressed into the marrow of her bones. A warning not from instinct, but from memory not her own. This place was not just a tomb. It was a WMB. A forge. A prison. She could feel its hunger, its patience, its ancient weight. And she knew, without knowing why, that something had been waiting here. Not for mankind. For her. She stepped forward into the dark, and the mountain held its breath. Izumi descended the spiral staircase in absolute silence, her steps muffled by the dense, ancient air. The light above grew distant, swallowed by the belly of the earth, until only the faint, flickering pulse of the walls, soft teal veins flowing like river currents under black obsidian, guided her way. The corridor tightened, the spiral leveled, and then the world shifted. The smooth passage ended in a threshold, its arch carved from a single curve of glimmering white stone. Izumi stepped through and was swallowed by darkness. Not absence of light, an active dark, something that pressed in around her like ink wrapping skin, like breath held too long beneath deep waters. She exhaled and took a step forward. Light bloomed. The chamber responded to her presence, awakening after what felt like an eternity of slumber. As she moved, faint blue lines traced her path across the floor, like veins catching fire, branching outward, illuminating the space. The corridor beyond was vast and linear, stretching like the spine of a sleeping beast. The walls curved outward and upward, meeting high above in a vaulted ceiling pattern with star maps that shifted as she walked beneath them. Her pulse slowed, her breath evened. The air was warm again, too warm, and heavy with a strange, metallic sweetness. This place, it wasn't dead. It was alive, and it was dreaming. She passed through 7 archways, each one thinner, narrower than the last, until the path widened again into a chamber that hummed with soft, resonant frequencies. The sounds were barely perceptible, but Izumi felt them under her skin, pulsing with the rhythm of her heartbeat. At the center of the chamber stood a low pedestal, not unlike the one she had encountered above. But this one was different, made from a lattice of bronze gold, mesh woven into glass-like plates, almost organic in design. Suspended above it, held not by wires, chains, or sockets, but levitating gently in midair, was a small, luminous jewel. It pulsed a gentle emerald green, like moss under morning dew, and spun so slowly it was nearly imperceptible. Roughly the size of closed fist, perfectly spherical, semi-translucent. Its colors seemed to ripple between tones of verdant green, sunset gold, and deep abyssal blue, though none ever stayed long enough to name. Izumi stepped closer. There were no inscriptions, no warnings, no traps, no test. The jewel pulsed faster as she approached, as though it were breathing, matching her own breath, like an echo chamber made flesh. And then she knew it had been waiting, not for a tribe, not for a king, for her. She reached out, not to grab, just one finger, just a touch. The moment her fingertip brushed the surface, the jewel shuddered in place. Light exploded outward, not violently, but with the warmth of recognition. A harmonic chime rang through the chamber, vibrating up her arm, into her jaw, through her skull. And then the jewel leapt. It launched forward like a creature springing to life, striking her chest with fluid precision. Izumi gasped, but there was no pain. The jewel sank into her skin effortlessly, parting muscle, parting bone, sliding beneath her sternum without wound or BLD. It nestled into the soft tissue beside her heart, and as it did, her flesh closed over it like rippling water. The glow beneath her chest dimmed, then pulsed once, twice, then began to beat in tandem with her heart. Thump, thump. She stood motionless, arms trembling at her sides, mouth parted but silent. Her heart rate slowed. Her breath became a whisper. Her pupils dilated. Then came the voice. At last. It was not sound. It was inside her. Not a whisper, not a shout, but a presence. A pressure blooming behind her eyes, slithering through the folds of her brain like oil over fire. Long have I drifted beneath the surface of this broken world. Forgotten. Entombed. Watching. She dropped to her knees, not from fear, but from the overwhelming intimacy of the sensation. It wasn't merely speech, it was a mind folding over hers. A consciousness older than the stars whispering its name through her spine. You hear me? Good. You have not been twisted by the distortions of your species. Not yet. She clutched her chest. The jewel was warm now. Not hot, not painful, just present. Who are you? She asked aloud, her voice hoarse. A beat. Then the answer came, fractured and slow. I am Naharvi Al, he who dreamt of ascent, he who crafted the godseed. You are mine now, as I was once theirs. The voice was male and not, mechanical and not. It shifted tones as it spoke, as though recalling how to speak through human vocal structures. A language that didn't belong in mouths. You are flesh born of chaos, but touched by purity. The old code burns within you. You will become more. The chamber dimmed. The glowing veins along the floor faded. But Izumi, she was a light now. The pulse beneath her sternum glowed faintly through her skin. A second heart, alien and eternal. She stood slowly, her legs steady despite the weight now coiled around her soul. She was still herself, but she knew she was no longer alone. Year, 2289 location, Abstergo Eastern Division Headquarters, Osaka, Japan. The room was a circle of steel and silence. No windows, no visible light fixtures. Just a low, ambient glow from the inset floor panels and the soft hum of servers embedded in the walls, pulsing like the veins of a sleeping beast. The air was temperature-controlled, scrubbed clean of even the faintest organic trace. In the center of the room sat a table made from a single slab of obsidian-like alloy. It was unnaturally smooth, without grain, texture, or flaw, shaped by machines that hadn't existed in public domain for over 200 years. A testament to hidden technologies and secrets buried far beneath the surface of polite civilization. 12 chairs circled the table. Only 6 were occupied. The men and women seated around it wore no insignia, no rank, no decoration, but there was no mistaking what they were. Templars, not the ones whispered about in the ruins of assassin archives. Not the black-suited operatives that corporate tabloids speculated about in fringe net articles. These were the true architects, the strategic elite of the inner sanctum. High-ranking minds, sharp and cold as razors, shaping the world from behind the illusion of statecraft and regulated order. Today, their eyes were fixed on a single, flickering projection at the center of the table, a holographic, three-dimensional topographic scan of Mount Izumi, Hokkaido's largest dormant volcano. The image pulsed faintly. Beneath the surface layers of basalt and obsidian, something unnatural glowed in the depths. A soft chime sounded. Then the voice of Elias Markov, Abstergo Director of Asian Historical Anomalies Division, broke the silence. Initial resonance readings began 2 weeks ago. Standard electromagnetic anomalies, low-frequency hum, negligible risk indicators. We assumed geothermal tremors. Routine monitoring. But then it changed. With a twitch of his fingers, Markov expanded the hologram. The image sliced itself open, peeling away the top layers of rock, zooming inward, down to the deepest fault beneath the western slope of the mountain. There, hovering in the volcanic cradle, was a shimmering object, its shape unstable, flickering between forms. Petal, disc, sphere, spiral, and then, almost as if shyly presenting itself, the projection stilled into the form of a lotus flower. Perfect symmetry, eightfold bloom. The room remained still for several long seconds. Then, a symbol of rebirth. The words came from the seat at the head of the table, spoken in a voice calm, authoritative, and dispassionate. President Reika Nakayama, head of the Hero Public Safety Commission of Japan and one of the 3 highest-ranking Templars of the Eastern Hemisphere, sat with her fingers laced before her. Her silver blonde hair was bound tightly at the crown of her head, not a strand out of place. She wore the uniform of the HPSC, black with BL de red trim. Every fold was perfect. Her eyes, frost gray and immaculately still, studied the hologram like a surgeon awaiting vital signs. The lotus has appeared in multiple ISU artifacts, she continued, as if reciting from memory. Often as an encryption trigger, sometimes as a power seal glyph. But this is something else. Something old, muttered one of the others. Daisuke Onoka, Chief Internal Director of HPSC Intelligence and another Templar operative. His voice was sharp-edged, cynical. We ran the data through all known Eden templates, apples, staves, tridents, gauntlets, rings, even failed Aletheia models. None matched the field signature. Yet the energy signature is unmistakable, said Dr. Sufyan El-Rahim, head of Abstergo relic cartography. His hands moved in the air, manipulating data streams. What we're detecting is not simply electromagnetic. It's bioreactive, temporal fragmentation, reality distortion. The object beneath the Zetsuzen is not inert. It is broadcasting. To what end? Asked Daisuke. We don't know. But the shape it assumes when viewed from a quantum-stable perspective is consistent, Sufyan answered, nodding toward the lotus image. Every process funnel, every environmental echo, every harmonic outburst, it arranges itself into a symmetrical lotus-shaped bloom. Not once, not twice, dozens of times. It's not signaling, Reika Nakayama said softly. It's awakening. Another moment of silence passed before the 4th-seated figure spoke. Her tone was velvet-coated steel. Catherine Sloan, Director of Abstergo Japan Public Media Division, one of the masterminds behind the Hero Regulation Protocols and a Templar asset embedded in Japan's educational and societal structure. The public won't accept another Eden incident. Not so soon after the gene collapse trials, she said, voice clipped. If this artifact is active and remains unsupervised, we risk destabilizing everything. We've spent over 2 centuries conditioning the world to embrace quirk hierarchies. Another Eden exposure would tear down the curtain. They've grown too used to calling their mutations evolution, Daisuke muttered. If they find out it's all rooted in ISU error, then we erase what we must, Catherine said. We've done it before. The projection shifted again. This time, it displayed a scroll of raw data, seismic pulses, acoustic mapping, atmospheric resonance, and biological anomaly readings. Near the bottom of the list were 2 lines, faint and corrupted, but unmistakable. Biofield trace detected. Signal origin, unknown entity signature, is almost equal to human status. Mobile heartbeat present. Reika's eyes narrowed. This is new. It only appeared within the last 36 hours, said Sufyan, adjusting his coat. We thought it was an error, couldn't be human. The radiation in that depth alone should kill even hardened spelunkers. But the reading persisted. We analyzed the heart rate. 52 beats per minute. Cold adapted. Non-mutated genome. Minimal Quirks signature. Female. An explorer? Asked Catherine. No expedition was authorized, Daisuke replied. No seismic activity to suggest a cave-in. No missing persons. No drones. No relic seekers. Just a heartbeat moving deeper. Reika looked toward the spinning lotus, her expression unreadable. Then someone was already there. Or something woke up, she added. A subtle chill passed through the room, though the temperature had not changed. Markov, the first to speak, now leaned forward. We're prepared to deploy an expedition team. No hero oversight. Pure abstergo. Extraction priority. Daisuke shook his head. We'd never get clearance without alerting the commission watchdogs. Reika raised a hand. We'll do both. All eyes turned to her. We'll send a HPSC-approved team first. A survey crew under the guise of investigating dormant seismic readings and environmental irregularities. If questioned, we'll cite public safety and geothermal hazard protocol. And if they find it, Catherine asked. Reika smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Then we bury them in the mountain and send in the real retrieval team after. Sufyan hesitated. And if this is a piece of Eden and it's aware? Reika turned back to the image of the lotus, still rotating in tranquil defiance of time. Her eyes reflected its green glow like twin shards of glass. Then we are already too late, and the world has no idea what's about to crawl out from the cracks. They didn't breathe until the feed cut out. 3 bodies crouched in absolute stillness, pressed against the curving structure of the data siphoning node, a crystalline lens shaped like the inverted petal of a lotus, hidden behind an anti-sound field projector embedded deep in the ventilation latticework of Abstergo Eastern Division HQ. Not many places in the modern world could still be bugged. Even fewer could be penetrated by living shadows. But the assassins had never needed permission. The woman closest to the wall, her black coat pressed tight to her wiry frame, raven hair tied back in a coiled knot, gave the hand signal first. A flat palm, then a curl of 2 fingers, exfiltrate, 3-point, split route. Got it, mouthed the youngest of the 3, a boy no older than 20 with dark eyes that gleamed with low, hungry fire. He adjusted the shoulder strap on his stealth satchel, careful not to jostle the encrypted biorecorder, a device illegal on 6 continents and lethal if misused. The third assassin was massive, a brute of a man with a shaved head and mechanical knuckles glinting under the low light of the. His eyes met the woman's. He nodded once. Then they vanished, one after another, into the duct systems of the Templar compound, swallowed by the bones of the beast. 6 hours later, the Kafukuin Temple ruins sat nestled in the pine-shrouded cliffs overlooking the western edge of Kyoto Prefecture. To the modern eye, it was just another archaeological dead zone, a foundation of shattered stone, worn statues, and fallen pagodas scorched by time and fire. But beneath the ruins, hidden through a descending stairwell masked by illusion field projectors and quantum cloaks, lay the true heart of the Japanese Brotherhood of Assassins. An ancient sanctum of data libraries, meditation halls, and reinforced war rooms, fed by geothermal channels and maintained by forgotten technologies scavenged from before the first collapse. No networks reached here. No satellites could peer through the thermal fog. It was a ghost, and the Templars had stopped looking for it centuries ago. The 3 assassins entered through the southern descent tunnel, bypassing the prayer gates and inner shrine cloisters. They moved quickly, efficiently, through winding corridors of cool stone and woven hemp-lace doors. Eventually, they came to a room of silence, long, low, filled with warm amber light cast from floating lamps designed in the shape of foxfire. At the center of the room, seated in lotus position upon an elevated platform of polished lacquered oak, was a man dressed in layered brown and ash-gray robes. He was not old, but ageless, his hair streaked with salt and ink, his skin weathered but not weak. One eye was hidden beneath a BLNDFLD of white silk. The other gleamed with sharp, bottomless clarity. Takayoshi Rensho, Grand MSTR of the Japanese Brotherhood, once known as the smoke between steel, a blade without shadow, and a legend whispered even in Abstergo's darkest files. He opened his visible eye as the three knelt. Yuma, Fuyuki, Keed. His voice was calm, like wind passing over mountain stone. You returned faster than expected. Keed, the woman, produced the recorder and set it on the ground before the Grand MSTR. We intercepted the meeting in Osaka. Inner Sanctum Level Templar Council. 6 seats. 3 embedded in the HPSC, including the president herself, Reika Nakayama. Takayoshi's gaze did not blink. And, he asked. Yuma, the youngest, couldn't hold it in any longer. They found something, he said. Beneath Mount Dezetsuzen. They don't know what it is yet, but it's Eden tier. They're calling it reactive, alive. Fuyuki, the large one, added in a low growl. Shapeform confirms lotus morphology. Consistent pulse resonance. Not any known piece of Eden, but matches bioreactive properties. They said it's broadcasting. Takayoshi reached out slowly and touched the recorder surface. His fingers were scarred from past missions, but precise. The recorder shimmered. From its core, holographic glyphs bloomed like unfolding origami, lines of spoken dialogue reconstructed, digitalized, and processed. He listened to the voices of Reika Nakayama, Daisuke Anoka, Sufyan El-Rahim, and then to the image of the artifact itself, the lotus. His face did not change, but something in the room shifted, like gravity had thickened. So, it stirs, he whispered, almost to himself. Keed frowned. You know what it is? No, he said. Not yet, but I've seen mention of it before, once. In an ancient ink scroll we recovered during the Third Sealing War. It spoke of a godseed buried beneath the snow peaks, sealed by the hands of those who were neither men nor gods. He looked up slowly, and it spoke of her. Yuma blinked. Who? Takayoshi did not answer at first. Then he touched a control on the floor beside his knee. A panel on the wall hissed open. A screen lit up, revealing a satellite scan of Mount Dezetsuzen taken by a Brotherhood micro-drone array orbiting above Japan. At the base of the slope, faint but undeniable, a single heat signature moved toward the epicenter. No name, no ID, no quirk registration, just a pulse, a heartbeat. Someone is already there, Takayoshi murmured, and the artifact is responding to her. Silence returned. The floating lamps flickered. The temple walls groaned under the pressure of centuries. Then the Grand MSTR stood. Contact all active shadows. Mobilize the hidden cells in Hokkaido. Secure all migration points. And bring me every recorded fragment we have on Lotus Design ISU artifacts. I want to know everything the Templars don't. Keed bowed low. What about the artifact itself? Takayoshi's eye narrowed. If the Templars reach it first, they'll twist it, bind it to systems of control, like they've done for every piece they've touched. We cannot let that happen. Yuma leaned forward. Then what do we do? The Grand MSTR turned his gaze toward the distant north, toward the mountains, the snow, and the waiting pulse of the earth. We do what we were trained for, he said. We find the truth behind the lotus. And if a god walks the mountain, he paused. We follow. Year, 2289 location. Mount Dezetsuzen, Hokkaido, Japan. 7 days had passed since the meeting in Osaka. 7 days since Abstergo's inner circle, wearing the faces of national authority, resolved to pull back the veil of history and seize whatever ancient god still slumbered beneath Hokkaido's frozen skin. Now, the first boots broke the snow. A hover transport, matte gray, silent, and unmarked, descended gently on a wide, frost-coated clearing near the southwestern face of Mount Dezetsuzen. The vehicle made no sound but the dull hum of stabilizers and the crunch of ice as its landing struts settled into place. As the hydraulic doors hissed open, 9 figures stepped out, each clad in thick environmental suits, sensor-threaded armor, and full tactical helmets equipped with neural HUD overlays. They were not soldiers. They were cleaners, surveyors, operatives, specialists, pawns. Behind their mirrored visors and code names, each one served 2 masters, the Hero Public Safety Commission on paper and the Templar Order in truth. Leading them was Agent Kana, 01, a woman with precise movements and a voice that rarely rose above a whisper. Her suit bore no insignia save for a stylized sun sigil, an older HBSC emblem no longer in circulation. She carried a field tablet in one hand, and in the other, a microbeacon with a thin antenna broadcasting encrypted telemetry back to Abstergo's central node in Osaka. The others fanned out in standard formation. One knelt and drove a core probe into the soil. Another unpacked an EM field triangulation rig, extending delicate wings of shimmering filament into the icy air. Two more began drone sweeps, launching insectoid recon units into the mist-shrouded forest that ringed the mountain's base. No signs of surface anomalies. Temperature consistent with geothermal emissions. No seismic irregularities in the past 72 hours. All readings normal. Too normal. But deep below, buried in the petrified muscle of the mountain, Izumi awoke. There was no motion, no twitch of limb, no sharp inhalation. Her body had not moved in weeks, entombed in the lowest chamber of the ISU sanctum like a relic awaiting ceremony. The flesh of her chest glowed, faintly beneath a thin silk-like wrap, each beat of her true heart echoed by the pulsing green radiance of the Kegure no Hoju, the Tainted Jewel. Her eyes opened slowly. They were not the eyes of a human being. They were silver, with traces of gold fractals rippling like liquid beneath the surface. Perception widened, depthless, no longer tethered to the limits of organic comprehension. The chamber around her responded immediately. Light spread across the curved ceiling. Glyphs flickered back to life. Time, she realized, had passed again. Too much, and yet not enough. She had sensed the presence above before they even touched the peak. Their footsteps registered as tremors in her bones. Their intentions blew like poison across her skin. She whispered into the dark. They come to claim what does not belong to them. A flicker of thought, barely conscious, caused the chamber's walls to ripple, revealing projections of the mountain surface above. 9 dots. She didn't recognize their faces, but she knew their scent. Templars, wrapped in a new world's uniform, hiding behind the masks of state and order. She felt the jewel within her stir, not in rage, but in anticipation. Naharviel's voice was faint, but present. They awaken the world for you. Let them climb. Let them dig. They seek divinity, but find only the mirror of their own failure. Izumi's fingers twitched. She didn't speak. Not yet. She waited, as she always had. Above, on the snowy ridge, Agent Kana, 01 frowned beneath her helmet. Something had changed. The drone feeds were clean, the soil samples inert. Yet there was an unmistakable pressure in the air, as though the mountain itself had drawn breath. Her hand flicked over her control pad, calling up the long-range resonance monitor. The results returned static for a moment, then blinked. Intermittent harmonic field detected. Resonance level. Class, 4/subsonic. Pattern forming, structure, organic symmetry. CYCL initiated. CYCL, she whispered. Command, asked the operative beside her. She paused. Then, increase ground-penetrating LiDAR. Focus scans westward, elevation tier 3. I want every deviation mapped down to the sub-millimeter. The mountain silence had shifted. Something had pulsed. Once, faint but unmistakable. Kana looked up the slope of Dezetsuzen, its dark, jagged peaks wrapped in curling mist. No birds circled the air. No wind passed through the trees. It felt like they had entered a lungs, and the mountain had just inhaled. At the base camp, a perimeter was being erected. Mobile shelters blinked online. Sensor totems unfolded like angular scarecrows, their roots digging into snow and stone, exuding invisible domes of synthetic awareness. Still nothing. Still normal. Yet all 9 operatives were beginning to feel it. The feeling of being watched. Not by wildlife. Not by insurgents. Not even by drones. But by something older. Aware. Far beneath the ice, Izumi remained still. She was not yet ready to rise. But her mind, expanded beyond human limits, already walked the upper levels of the ISU structure. Invisible to sensors, she traced the movements of each intruder through curvature of magnetism and echoes of biothermal displacement. She knew their gait, their pulse, their false certainty. She wondered how long it would take before they reached the Lotus Chamber. She wondered if they were ready. She doubted it. She whispered again, I have waited 5 millennia. Let them search. Let them tire. And when they reach me, they will kneel. The mountain was growing. Crowded. The Templars, dressed in the skin of authority, moved through the snow like surveyors and scientists, placing sensors, digging cores, masking their true purpose beneath bureaucratic mandates and clean gloves. They were precise, calculated, efficient, but even their veil could not hide them from eyes that had watched this mountain for centuries. The assassins had arrived. They came not in transports, but in silence, weaving through pine and shadow, using centuries-old routes carved by ancestors whose bones were now part of the earth. No hovercraft, no digital trail, no sound. 3 dozen in total, divided into rotating observation teams across the eastern and southern ridgelines of the Dezetsuzen Range. Dressed in adaptive camouflage armor that blurred to stone and snow with every breath, they were phantoms, watching every Templar movement from high above or beneath their very feet. At the head of the Hokkaido cells was a man who wore no hood and carried no blade. Hayashi Tenzin, known to some as the Root Without Soil, a third-generation assassin trained in the old martial style known as Koho Retsujin, a combat form once lost and revived from scrolls found beneath the ruins of Kyoto. Unlike most operatives, Tenzin was not born into the Brotherhood. He had been rescued by it 40 years ago, as a boy barely 5, stolen from a Quirk experimentation lab owned by a Templar front. He bore the scars of their science, and he had never forgiven them. Tenzin stood on a thin outcrop of black rock jutting from a snow-covered cliff, the pale wind howling past him like distant wolves. Below, the false HBSC team moved along their survey lines. He lifted a monocular lens to his eye, adjusted the filter, and activated the heat signature overlay. 9 operatives, he muttered into the throat mic, still maintaining outer cover. No sign they've breached the mountain's inner vaults. A voice replied over the channel, Keeds. Understood. Kyoto says extraction is not priority yet. Shadow them. Confirm entry path. Do not engage. Tenzin lowered the lens. His eyes narrowed. He wasn't concerned about the Templars. He was concerned about what might be watching the Templars. Far below them all, deep within the cold breath of the sleeping mountain, something stirred in a chamber older than any civilization on Earth. The walls were lined with shelves, hundreds of meters tall, stacked with handwritten books bound in leather, bark, silk, and ancient paper. Some had spines of pressed obsidian. Others were burned, fused together by volcanic heat, still intact despite their age. Izumi walked among them, her bare feet silent on the smooth, pearl-white stone floor. She wore a robe of simple weave, colored midnight and stitched with gold-threaded glyphs. Her own design, neither human nor Isu. Her movements were smooth, slow, like a ritual. Behind her, light bled gently from the circular hallway, her resting chamber still aglow with the subtle hum of the Kegir no Hoju beneath her sternum. The library was her creation, her penance, and her proof. Over 5 millennia, Izumi had written every book herself, some with hands caked in volcanic ash, others by candlelight in broken temples during wars long forgotten. Every idea, every observation, every scientific formula she devised or stole from the ISU echoes, all of it committed to ink. She turned a corner and walked beneath a massive arch lined with inscriptions in 3 languages: Classical Japanese, Latin, and a dead ISU dialect that had no spoken form, only thought structures. She moved toward a plinth at the far end of the room. Sitting atop it was a sphere, faintly glowing, gold and silver intertwining like flowing mercury, an apple of Eden. She stopped. Her fingers hovered above it, but did not touch. Instead, her eyes closed and her mind slipped backward. 1,100 years. Flashback, year, 1190 location, Goryeo Peninsula, modern Korea. The snows were heavier that year. The kingdom of Goryeo was in chaos. Bandit wars, court purges, and famine all mingled under the crumbling bones of the royal line. Izumi, traveling under the guise of a shamanic scholar, had come to the ruins of a pre-kingdom fortress half buried in the basalt cliffs near the Yellow Sea. She hadn't followed dreams that time. She had followed a sound, a subharmonic tone that carried over wind and stone like a lullaby written for the dead. When she reached the shattered inner chamber, she found the apple, held aloft by skeletal arms. 4 of them, humanoid but wrong, petrified in a gesture of offering. It pulsed the moment her foot crossed the threshold. She had reached for it, and the moment she touched it, the sphere responded not with violence, but with recognition. Izumi Midoriya, it had said in a voice that folded time around her. You are one of the few remaining with BLD potent enough to wield me. You are broken, but appealing. It had shown her visions of the ISU as they were, of the fall, of Naharvial, and the creation of the Tainted Jewel, a sister experiment to the apples, abandoned for its hunger. It showed her glimpses of herself, in places she had not yet been. When the vision faded, the apple had dimmed, submitting itself to her grip like a tame beast. She carried it with her for 100 years, until she no longer needed it. Present, 2289. Her eyes opened slowly. The apple rested on the plinth, still perfectly preserved. She did not need to activate it today. Not yet, but its presence grounded her. She turned her gaze upward toward the ceiling dome above the library, transparent only to her eyes, allowing her to watch the surface above as if it were no more than a mirror pond. She could see the Templars moving. She could see the assassins waiting. She could even see the weather shifting, aligning into patterns that mirrored old ISU probability charts. Everything moves, she said softly, like lines in a poem, moving toward a conclusion none of them understand. She reached for a new book on a side table and uncapped a stylus pen made from a shard of ancient crystal. And she began to write. Thank you for joining us on this journey through what if female Deku was immortal. We hope you found it as captivating as we did. A big thank you to Random Bullshit 9 for creating such an engaging story. Don't forget to visit their profile on Wattpad for more fantastic works. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Zenin Fanfics for more intriguing explorations into fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and suggestions in the comment section. See you soon in the next video.